Welcome to Good Living Practices Sessions with Dr. Ram Rao. As usual, we will start today's session with a prayer. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May there be well-being in all. May there be peace in all. May there be fulfillment in all. May there be auspiciousness in all. Om, peace, peace, peace. Wishing all of you well-being, peace, fulfillment, auspiciousness, and peace. So let's start today's session with Dr. Rao. This session is session number 5. It is my privilege and honor to introduce my friend, Dr. Ram Rao. Dr. Ram Rao has impressive credentials, and we have gone over it in the other sessions. So I will skip that part. Good. But I would like you to know that Dr. Ram Rao is going to be sharing details from his best-selling book, Good Living Practices. And these sessions that we have had in the past few sessions, we have tried to discuss about all the practices that he has mentioned in the book, and also tried to answer some of the questions that you as our audience have had. And so this is the way we are thinking about moderating the session. NBHC is very delighted to partner with Dr. Ram Rao in bringing you these GLP sessions. We have these sessions every month on the first Sunday of every month at 11 a.m., where Dr. Rao will share tips that we can adopt in our lives. Using this virtual platform, Ram discusses several aspects from his book and touch, heal, and inspire everyone. The Good Living Practices sessions will provide an opportunity to solve your queries and clear any confusion or doubts you may face while trying to adopt these practices into your own lives. As a moderator, I will ask Dr. Rao a few questions after the session is complete, after he finishes talking. And then Ram will provide 3 GLP tips. And once I finish asking those questions, I will open it up to the audience, and you can either ask your questions or type it up in the chat window, and Ram will attempt to respond to those questions. And we will then end the session after your questions are answered. So thank you very much. Without much further ado, over to you, Ram.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Radhika. Good morning to everybody, especially people who are in the Pacific time zone, and good afternoon to others who are in other time zones. So this is session 5, as Radhika mentioned, and today we'll be talking about another good living tip. Before that, just for people who are new to this, let me just summarize what we discussed in the last 4 sessions. We talked about human. When we define ourselves as human, we said a human, it consists of the body, the mind, and the emotions. And these 3 units, the body, the mind, and the emotions, they have to function as one unit 24/7. That is when you achieve optimal health. And in the last 4 sessions, I provided tips where you can keep the body, mind, and emotions in sync, functioning as one unit. Okay, we call that an unfractionated living. We talked about mindfulness when we eat. We talked about mindfulness when we cook the food. I spoke about conscious eating. I said why cooking is meditation. I also mentioned why eating is meditation. And then I mentioned about the importance of chewing when you eat your food. I gave a count of 25 to 30 as a means to involve the mind. And when the mind starts counting the chews, your emotions also become balanced. I spoke about the importance of having a big meal at noon, because we talked about the clock genes. I spoke about a gentle fast of 12 hours from the time you have your dinner to the next day morning when you have your breakfast, which is extremely important to stabilize the physical body, to stabilize the brain and the mind, and to calm the emotions. I also talked about the importance of keeping a 3-hour gap between meals. And I also told about the importance of maintaining a 3-hour gap between your dinner and sleep time. And then the last couple of sessions, I talked about the importance of physical exercise. Physical exercise is extremely important to strengthen the body, to strengthen the brain and the mind. And we talked about the importance of brain malleability, the neuroplasticity, which is triggered by physical exercise. You can mold the brain through physical exercise. And I also talked about the importance of mental exercise to mold the brain. And then I said how immunity is defined as not just something physical, but also at the level of your mind and the level of emotions. So when we talk about attaining immunity, make sure that you're talking about attaining immunity at the physical level, at the mental level, and at the level of emotions. And then I gave a good tip. I said conscious eating, being aware of what you're eating, keeping a 12-hour fast, and then the following day, doing a 30 minutes mental exercise, followed by a 30 minutes physical exercise. And I said this builds a strong immunity at all 3 levels. Okay. Now, how do you sustain these benefits? The way you sustain these benefits is following them regularly and to make sure that you do it every day so that you can benefit from this. Now, today, I'll talk about one more good living practice tip that will keep these benefits further strengthened. Okay, so let me go and share the slides here. So the other important good living practice tool to achieve well-being and optimal health at the level of emotions, mind, and body is through the path of selfless service. What do we mean by selfless service? When a person provides selfless service, it's also called seva in Sanskrit. And in the yoga philosophy by Patanjali, he calls it karma yoga. So when a person provides selfless service, he or she is doing this without any egoistic tendencies. That person is not looking for reward. That person is not looking for an award. That person does not want any recognition in any form. There is no expectations of any sort. No judgment is attached to the selfless service. So to render selfless service, you must develop 2 qualities. One, you have to overcome any attachment to that specific task, and you need to cultivate a loving attitude so that you can keep performing those service tasks again and again. In other words, you must have no expectations after rendering the selfless service, and you must also remain unaffected by the results of your action while still maintaining a loving attitude. If you do not love to render the selfless service and you do so only because you are doing it of a sense of compulsion, or maybe because there's a fear in your mind, or maybe because there is some reason for doing it, then this creates an emotional turmoil. And this emotional turmoil and a conflict in the mind can negate all the benefits that come from selfless service. So as you begin to decide how you want to perform a selfless service, try to learn to create love towards that duty that you're going to perform. So let go of any egoistic tendencies, let go of any desires, let go of any ambition, overcome any fear, worry, anxiety, judgment, or anger. So that what happens is you are able to do the service without any emotional or mental problems. Now you will know whether you are rendering a selfless service because what happens is you will experience a state of bliss. In my book, I mentioned that as a state of high prana. You will feel a sense of calmness. You will feel non-judgmental. You will feel neutral in your emotions. By focusing on this selfless action, you will enter into this high blissful state that will encourage your physical, your mental, and your emotional growth. Now, you may wonder whether this is something that I pulled out from my hat or whether there are actually studies to show that there are benefits that come from selfless service. You know, there are so many research studies now that has been taken place in this country and other countries where they talk about the benefits that come from selfless service. There are numerous scientific articles that show that there's a strong correlation between selfless service and the well-being, the happiness, the health, and the longevity of a person. As long as that person is doing the task without expectation, and so long as they feel good about performing these tasks. Now, researchers have reported that people who perform selfless service experience less depression, they have great immunity, they have greater life satisfaction, they are more happy, and they have improvements in their overall health, which tend to keep them at a good age life. So longevity is improved. Now, there's one of the wonderful studies that I keep following that, and I keep talking about that because this was what we call a prospective longitudinal study. A longitudinal study is a study where they follow these people for a very long time. So this research began actually in 1957. And these researchers who started the research in 1957 caught up with that research 60 years later. So they followed these people for 60 years. These were 3,000 people. And when they started the research, these people were all graduates. And then they followed them up for 65 years, 60 to 65 years. What they did was, half of the population of these 3,000 people, they said, perform selfless service without any expectations, without any recognition, without any fame, without any judgment. And then the other half, they said, you perform these services, but with a desire to have a personal gain or self-growth. So they followed these people for 60 plus 5 years. And then what they found is very interesting. They found out that those people who perform the selfless service without any expectation, they lived for a very long time. They had very good health. They had very less number of diseases in their life. And the people who perform the service for compassionate reasons, they achieved most health benefits. And these benefits were not seen in all those people who in the other group that perform the service only for personal gain or self-growth. And it's very interesting because the main investigator of the study, he bullet pointed this statement. They said, should any benefits to the self become the main objective or motive for performing selfless service, that doer may not see the health benefits associated with the selfless service. Very good, very beautiful. It goes very well with all that has been said in our scriptures, that you have to perform any service without the doer becoming the main motive. Now, in addition to following these people for the very long time and seeing their health benefits, these researchers also carried out certain biochemical work on these people. And what they showed is all those people who rendered the selfless service for compassionate reasons, without any ego, without any desire for self recognition, they noticed that these people had high levels of what we call the feel-good hormones. These feel-good hormones, there are some of them like dopamine and oxytocin and endorphins. These hormones, they not only keep you at that blissful state, but they're also responsible for creating that immunity that I talked about, immunity at all three levels, body, mind, and emotions. So that's the reason why you see that people who perform selfless service for a very long time, they have a very good health, probably because of these feel-good hormones. Now, Interestingly, what the research, now other studies have also shown is that now selfless service does come by offering a few pennies or by writing a check. But what they showed is the maximum benefits come when you go that extra mile. That is, you actually sacrifice your time, you sacrifice your effort, and you participate in that selfless service. Then what happens is the benefits are much, much more compared to just sitting at home and writing a check and saying, okay, I've done my selfless service. Now, I'm not saying that writing a check is not bad. It is good. I mean, after all, how many of us actually write a check? It is good. But if you want to see true benefits, health benefits, then make sure that you actually take your time off and actually perform that selfless service physically. So several of these studies have shown that benefits from the selfless service were seen among those participants who actually volunteered minimum of several hours during a month. Okay, so, and what they showed is the benefits come even if you offer 1 hour a week. So we are not asking for a long hours of your time to do this selfless service. 1 hour a week, every week like that for a sustained period can provide you those benefits. Now, through these research studies, the health benefits have been so remarkable, okay, so that what has happened is the United Nations and a lot of the European countries who, I mean, healthcare benefits are rising like crazy, right? No country wants to spend so much of money on health benefits, okay? So nobody wants to be sick. So now what has happened is the health benefits from the selfless service has so profound that the United Nations and several European countries are now encouraging their citizens to volunteer and render selfless service. That way, they want to bring down the chronic illnesses that come up on a regular basis. Now, often people come to me when I tell them, a lot of people come to me for Ayurvedic consultancy and I tell them to practice selfless service. Sometimes they come to me and they say, they've stopped their selfless service because the receiver of their selfless service did not put their service to good use. For example, now some people have told me their complaints saying that they go to San Francisco and they provide money to those homeless people, and then after some time they notice that the homeless person has gone and used that money to either buy a cigarette or to buy drugs. So they've stopped their selfless service. Now, in all these cases, the advice is that the doer has forgotten one basic tenet of a selfless service. That is, you carry out the act and that's it. Your selfless service should stop at that act. There should not be any expectation after rendering the service. And doers are neither responsible nor answerable to the receiver's action following the selfless service. Okay. Now, do not resort to selfless service as a standalone for good health and wellness. Okay, so good health and wellness needs to come along with good eating practices, physical exercise, mental exercise, and selfless service. All this put together will sustain the emotional, the mental, and the physical benefits. So, the take-home message from this session is engage in a selfless service to strengthen and reinforce the emotions, the mind, and the body. Please, even if you don't want to believe me, let's look at all the research studies which show very clearly that people who incorporate selfless service into their daily lives, they strengthen their ability to resist the ego's impulses and achieve greater fulfillment and progress and happiness in their life. By performing selfless service, you'll be inspired to do the right things, and you're less impulsive, or you're less driven to act on knee-jerk or selfless urges, selfish urges. So, what are some of the examples? And one of the easy ways to get to do a selfless service is to mentor a neighbor's son or relative's son or a daughter. One more thing that the researchers mentioned is that in their studies is that if you can do a selfless service within your family, but the benefits, the health benefits come if you do that for an outsider. Okay, so it's a non-biased selfless service. So you can, if there are expenses that a child cannot afford, education, extracurricular activities, consider helping the child or the family with that cost. And this is what I tell my patients. I tell them on their birthdays, I tell them, instead of waiting to receive something, see if you can give something on that day. And in my workplace, a lot of, because in the Hindu culture, we have this tendency of celebrating an anniversary, or celebrating, or not celebrating, but celebrating an anniversary, or performing on the death anniversaries, we perform those rituals wherein one of the things that we do is we provide food to the needy. Okay, so a lot of people in my workplace who are not Indians, they have seen what I've been doing every year. So they come to me and they say, Ram, what do we do to commemorate my father's death day, or my mother's death day, or somebody's death day? So you know what I tell them? I'll say, okay, you can commemorate the anniversary of a loved one by providing a fresh, warm meal to the homeless or to anybody in need. So not only does this help the receivers, but it also adds meaning to the anniversary, right? So remember, each time you perform a selfless service, there are benefits that will come in some form. Don't wait or don't look for those benefits. It will come. It may not come in the form of cash, but it will come in some form, some subtle form. It may not be immediate, but it will happen over the time. It could be health benefits that you've seen. It could be something in terms of your work. It could be something in your family. Whatever it is, it will definitely happen. Okay. Now, do you want to know another tip to achieve a big boost in your selfless service benefits that come? The way to do that, we consider this to be the highest form of selfless service. And what is that? So let's say you perform a selfless service, okay? And there are going to be benefits to you because you've done it. Now, knowing that there'll be some benefits, can you silently pray that any benefits that come because of this charitable act of yours, let it go to another individual who needs it the most? This, my friends, is the highest karma yoga or seva that you can do. Silently praying that any benefits that I'm doing today, let it go to somebody else that needs it the most. And my dear friends, what will happen is there's a double booster benefit that will come to you because you have done this. Okay. So hopefully today's talk will motivate you to engage in selfless service so that you have an optimal health at all three levels of body, mind, and emotions. Okay. So with that, let me stop sharing and I'll take your questions.
Thank you very much, Ram. That was very, very this thing. It brought to mind actually a story about Bharat. You know my son Bharat. He was about 10, 11 years old. And, his favorite thing was to get French fries from Burger King. Or, that was the thing. And our ritual whenever we went out on vacation, I don't know what he found in that Burger King, but that was what he wanted. So we were standing in line, and suddenly he just turned to me and he said, Amma, can I have $5? And so I thought, okay, he might want to spend on some candy or something like that. I said, don't spend on any candy or anything. Don't do that. And so he said, no, I'm not going to spend on any candy. Okay, I will this thing. So I, gave him the $5, and then we bought our stuff and we were waiting in the car. And so he went, and what I saw him doing was he had actually purchased a Happy Meal or something, and there was a child, a homeless person actually sitting outside. And I saw him just go there and give that person, the bag. And it was gratifying for me as a parent that the 10, 11-year-old did that. And it was a selfless act for him. It was a selfless act. Beautiful. And it was good. It was very nice. And now he's much older, but he's continued doing that selfless service. And every time, so it just as a parent, I'm proud of it. But I just wanted to pass along that,
Yeah.
it makes him happy, and it also, satisfies your karma, your whatever you're supposed to do according to your scriptures.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's so interesting, Radhika. I mean, what Bharat has been doing is amazing, because as an 11-year-old, it came without any guidance. It just came
Correct.
impromptu. So that is an amazing thing. The other thing is the fact that he's continuing. He's definitely, those benefits will. I mean, not that we are looking for benefits, but
Right.
anything that is happening to him right now in the form of whether it's work recognition or health or whatever it is, it's all part of what he's doing, and in terms of selfless service. Not just that, I think it was Gandhiji who mentioned, NK Gandhi, who mentioned that it's so beautiful. He says the doer who does selfless service, not only will the benefits go to that person, but it will also create an environmental benefit to the family, immediate family. Okay.
Correct.
And as long as they continue doing a selfless service, it will even progress to the entire community. So you see, one person can be a role model for the entire community. So imagine now if everybody looks at that and says, okay, we'll also gather and we'll also engage, the whole thing just spreads around. So what we call
Correct.
it, this is that, there's this spreading effect that comes about, that comes out from this. So that's the reason why a lot of these countries, the European countries, are now embarking on this project where they are requesting, and they are imploring all the citizens to engage in selfless service.
Right. And, I know there is a flurry of activity around the holiday time to, to give back, and all these companies do all that. But in my mind, and this is just my opinion that I'm humbly sharing, is that it should be throughout the year. There
Correct.
should be, it should be something that is done throughout the year. And I have admired many of the people who, I work a lot with nonprofits in my day job as an insurance broker. And so I see all the selfless work that these nonprofits do.
Right.
And so there are many volunteer opportunities and everything that, if we, as a group, as a community, we
Correct.
can look for those opportunities. And in fact, North Bay Hindu
Absolutely.
Center, yeah, North Bay Hindu Center, what we try to do is we look for those kind of opportunities to see if there is something, that we can give back to the community. And,
Absolutely.
like knitting scarves or something like that. So
Yes.
it is always and it's not, it is not because of that feeling good. It is just because you're doing something to make a difference.
Right. Absolutely, to make a difference. And for people out there who are listening to this talk, if you want to know, if you want more examples, I mean, in my book, at the end of the chapter on selfless service, I have at least like 25 to 30 different selfless services I've listed out. Easy ones. It's very easy to practice and to perform them. And so I would encourage you all to look at that for if you need some examples for it of selfless services.
So, so now, before we move on to other questions, and before I open it up, there have been some questions that we have received on the prior sessions that I'm just going to ask you, so that you can attempt to respond to those.
Okay.
So the first question is, I'm always fearful of losing my job. This constantly worries me. Will mental exercises help me to overcome the fear?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Or mental exercise will overcome the fear. But remember, once again, uh, as I keep saying and reiterating the fact, when we talk about using some practices, let's keep in mind that as a human, we are the body, mind, and emotions. So if you have a fear is an emotion. So which means that you have to strengthen, not you have to not only overcome fear, you have to strengthen your mind and you have to strengthen your body as well, because all three units have to be strengthened. So all the things that I've told this morning, all the good living practices at the level of body, mind, and emotions, practice all of them. So physical exercise, making sure that you eat the right food, making sure that you eat the right food the right time, making sure that you practice how you're eating, where you're eating. Remember, eating is meditation. So think about that when you eat your food. Physical exercise, extremely important. Fasting, 12 hours gentle fasting, extremely important. Chewing your food, extremely important, because all these connect not just the body alone, they connect the body to the mind and to the emotions. So all this will definitely help in overcoming any emotional problems that you have. Okay.
The next question is on the Khichdi
Can
program.
I add one thing? Sorry.
Yes.
This is Padma, and with regard to the question and what Ram mentioned, I'd like to add one more thing that can add on to what Ram taught today about selfless service. And for this person who has that fear about losing the job, they can easily incorporate a beautiful exercise here by gently every day wishing that whoever is in a state who have either lost their job, that they get a job, or who are in the process of maybe losing the job, may their job be they may have a stable job. By doing this, they are doing a selfless service, and they are overcoming their own fears.
Their own fears. Yeah, that's a very good point, Padma. Very good point. Thank you.
So the next question I have is on the Khichdi program, the fasting diet that a few of us practiced along with you during the holidays, that 10-day fast that you had said, the mono diet.
Right.
I am seeing great benefits from the one Khichdi program. I like to improve further on these changes. How often and for how many days can I do the Khichdi program to sustain the benefits?
Very good question. Yeah. So I started off that program so that everybody can inculcate that into their own lives, and I hope that most of you, if not all, most of you did see some subtle changes in your lives with that Khichdi program. So now, just one program is not sufficient. You have to, in order to sustain the benefits at all three levels of individuality, that is body, mind, and emotions, you have to engage in this Khichdi detox program regularly. So when I talk about regularly, what I do is, in my own experience, what I do is I try to do it at least once a month or once in 2 months. Okay. So it's up to you what you want to do. You can do it 1 week a month or 1 week every 2 months. So the reason I said 1 week is because it's easy to practice. You phase in for 2 days, and then you do the actual fast for 3 days, and then you phase out for 2 days. So 2 plus 2 plus 3 is 7 days. So you're combining 1 week in a month. So you can either do that 1 week program in a given month, or you can do it 1 week program for every 2 months. Okay. So phase in for 2 days, the actual fast for 3 days, and phase out for 2 days. And if you do that, so let's say you do it every 2 months, which means in a year, okay, you have done it 6 times. Okay. Definitely, I can guarantee you, because based on my own experience and based on the experience that I have put a lot of my patients in, you will definitely see a lot of benefits. Okay, so you can continue that way.
So thank you, Ram. And the third question I have is, I'm worried about my weight gain thanks to the pandemic. Any GLP or other ways to lose weight?
Well, I mean, there are several ways to lose weight, right? I mean, if you want to take a pill approach, yeah, you can. There are some pills out there that you can do it. If you don't want the pill approach, if you want a natural approach, if you want a good living practice approach, do everything that I just told you. I mean, in the last 5 sessions, I stressed the need for eating the right kind of food at the right time, at the right place, making sure that you're undisturbed, making sure that you're chewing your food for a count of 25 to 30. And remember, when I talked about the importance of chewing, I also mentioned about those scientific studies that showed very clearly that people who chewed their food consciously, they were aware about the chews and they were aware about what they were eating and they were counting their food. Those people went on to lose weight considerably. Very natural approach. And it makes sense. There is biochemical mechanisms to explain that. So when you chew your food for 25 to 30, you are going to build a lot of saliva. That saliva, coupled with now the soupy consistency of the food, when it enters the stomach, your stomach is already filled up. After 3 or 4 mouthfuls of food, your stomach says, no, I don't want any more food. So what happens is, even if you have a big plate of lot of food, you are going to end up eating only 4 to 5 mouthfuls of food if you properly chew them. You're not going to eat the entire food. So what happens is, over time, you are going to eat less. Okay, but because there's maximum absorption, okay, you're not going to lose any energy. Everything that you eat in that 4 or 5 mouthfuls of food, You are going to absorb everything. You're going to get the maximum amount of energy. You'll feel very good at the level of body, mind, and emotions, and you'll start losing weight. So all that I told you, starting from GLP-1 to GLP to today's session, if you practice all this, it'll definitely, but you have to practice it every day. It's not like practicing one day in a week and then saying, okay, I can do this sometime else. No, you have to practice it daily. Okay. You'll definitely see changes in your weight program.
So what you're advocating is you have to have that discipline,
yes,
and you know, the mental resolve, motivation to do it.
Right.
And you know, in the beginning it will be difficult, and I'm guilty of that. It is difficult.
It is difficult, no doubt about that. I mean, there are some times when I feel frustrated, but you know what? When I think about the health benefits that come with it,
yes,
and touch wood, you know, most of us are leading a healthy life, but you want to continue that healthy life for several years to come. So the way you can sustain those good practices is through these things that I've told you.
And anything is possible. Your mental makeup, it definitely has an effect on your physical makeup. So
absolutely.
Yes. And the last question on this that I have is about selfless service. You mentioned you would cover that in the February session, and but my question is, do you think selfless service is also a humbling experience?
It is, and that's the reason why I mentioned about you should let go of your egoistic tendencies, okay? Because it is a humbling experience, and if you do it without any egoistic tendencies, then not only will you feel humble, but this is what happens. As a human, we tend to compare ourselves with people who are above us in some degree or the other, in some fashion or the other, because we don't have what they have. That's number one. Number two, we also try to compare ourselves with people who are below us in terms of whatever it could be. Whether it's wealth, whether it's property, whether it's promotions, whether it's job situation, whether it is your work atmosphere, whatever be it, we tend to compare ourselves with people above us or people below us, or both. Okay. So what happens is, over time you build these tendencies, you build these egoistic tendencies. When you do a selfless service, it brings down it blocks these tendencies. You won't have them. And I'll give you an example. So, and you know, by giving this example, I'm not trying to put myself in front of you. I'm not saying that I did something great. I'm just giving an example of, you know, what I mean by humbling experience. So, you know, Padma and I, we used to, you know, when we were in we often go to, there are places in the North Bay where you can go and work as, you know, in the restaurant. There are certain times of the month where they call it the karma kitchen. Okay, where people come there to cook, to feed, to wait on the table, and to wash. These people who are doing it are not the employed people. It's people like us volunteering to give it. And on that day, it's a Sunday, and when people come to eat, they have no idea that these are all volunteers. They think they are regular staff members. So we cook the food, we wait on the tables, we wash the dishes, we take the orders, okay, and we don't charge them. They eat the food, and then when they receive the bill will say zero. It will say you donate whatever amount you want to donate. So those people who come to eat the food, they're very surprised, because people who are waiting on the table are professionals. They're high achievers. They are people who are very wealthy. Okay. When I did that, so the few times that I have volunteered in those kitchens, I waited on the table, I took the orders. There was one occasion where I actually spent 4 hours of my time. This runs from 11 to 3 in the afternoon. I spent all the 4 hours washing the dishes. And somebody, and I don't want to mention his name, somebody in this group, in fact, that person is attending this session right now. That person actually was there that day in that restaurant. And I took the orders and I was washing the dishes. And that person actually asked me, saying that, Ram, you're a professor of neuroscience. How does it feel to be waiting on somebody's table and then to wash the dishes? I said, it feels great. It feels beautiful. So it is an humbling experience, my friends. And you know, that's the best way I can think about, not just waiting on the tables, any form of selfless service, any form. Okay. As long as you don't have any attachments to that, as long as you do it with a loving attitude, it is definitely a humbling experience because you will stop comparing yourself with others. Okay, you'll be totally non-judgmental.
And it brings a story to my mind. It is there was this old lady who had a rooster, and in the village, and every time morning the rooster would crow, and the village, she thought that that was what was getting the village to get up and do all their jobs. And one day, she felt insulted because somebody did not give her the respect she thought she needed. And so she took the rooster and went away from the village. And then she came back after a few days. She found that the village was functioning without, no difference or anything. It was functioning. So it brought her this thing for her, that it was, her ego. It was just her ego that
Absolutely.
it showed that, she was very, she was needed. Life goes on. And, that way, once you realize that, you have that humility, and
Yes.
You give back.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Thank you, Ram. And so I'll be opening it up to anybody who wants to ask any questions on this or previous sessions. So please feel free to ask.
While somebody is deciding to put the question, I just this morning I got one more question from the sessions, Radhika. So the question was, how do you build the brain through physical exercise? Okay, how do you build the brain through physical exercise? And I don't think I covered that in the last session. So I have examples. So what happens is, as we grow, as we age, not grow, as we age, two things happen to the brain. Number one, it gets sort of rusty. Okay, and number two, the blood flow from the heart to the brain decreases. It doesn't stop, but decreases. We call it cerebral blood flow. It actually decreases. Okay, and both these changes can affect brain function. That's the reason why a lot of us, as we age, we feel what we call the fogginess, especially in the mornings when we get up, or we're confused, or sometimes we forget things. Or I'm not talking about pathological cases. I'm just saying these are natural changes that happen. So how do you ensure that you keep your brain active? Through physical exercise, because the question was about physical exercise. So there are two physical exercises that you can do in any form that strengthen the brain. Number one is to ensure that there's proper blood flow. And I think I mentioned that briefly last time. So one way to ensure blood flow to the brain is to practicing either part or full inversions, okay, where your head is beneath the heart. Okay, in other times the head is above, right? So you want to ensure that your head is beneath the heart, so that will promote the blood flow. So you can do that either partial or full inversions. The second thing to ensure that the brain does not get rusty is to practice one leg balances. Okay, so balance poses are extremely good to strengthen the brain. So you can practice in any form. Initially, if you have a hard time balancing, hold on to some support and then practice standing on one leg, or practice extending one leg outside while one leg on the ground. So any of those balancing exercises and the inversions are extremely good for the strengthening the brain. Okay, and I can take your questions now.
Basically, a tree pose.
Yeah, tree pose, or there is that warrior pose 3, Virabhadrasana 3, or that's another balancing pose. Okay. And then there's also the pigeon pose, where you take your leg back and hold it for a long time. So all these one-legged balance poses are extremely good.
And there was one that you used to do in our yoga sessions, where you extended the leg in front of you and tried to.
Yes.
So that was very helpful. And also at the back, like an airplane pose also.
Correct. So Padangushtasana, where you actually extend your leg and then you hold either the knee, or you hold the ankle, or you hold the toe of the foot, and then you can keep yourself balanced. Now, again, if you don't have these practices, make sure that you are holding on to some support, and then gradually improve on that. So now you can stand without losing your balance.
Yes. And it also helped in aligning your body, other than the mental aspect of it, it helped to strengthen your leg muscles and your hip muscles.
Absolutely.
So that was what you told us.
Especially your hips. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions? So it looks like everybody is.
Ram Garu,
Yes.
this is Madhavi. So while doing the mono diet, me and my friend both have done this. We did, it was like while eating and while on the diet, it just felt heavenly when we were eating the khichdi. It was like very easy on the stomach, but eventually both of us did experience a little discomfort in the stomach related to a little bloating and gassy. Maybe we have not like did the entire thing to the dot. So maybe the vegetables which we put in the khichdi, like broccoli or gobi, these made us do that. So what?
Yeah.
So
So
I was thinking.
yeah. So a lot of people do have some issues with with mung bean or certain vegetables. Now, the first time you do that, the second time you do that, the third time you do that, if you have digestive issues, please don't worry, because ultimately what we say is that the very fact that you're experiencing bloating, the very fact that you're experiencing cramps, or the very fact that you're experiencing some kind of a abnormality after eating the khichdi diet just goes to show that your digestion is still not optimal. So don't worry, just be with it. If you want, try to remove some of those vegetables, but keep sustaining that practice, because ultimately what you want is you want to build an optimal digestive system, and that will come only through not just one session of khichdi detoxification, but through multiple sessions of that. So if not the first time, if not the second time, at least the third time or the fourth time, you will notice that you are able to digest the food better. So whenever you experience any digestive upheavals, it's only because you are what we call, we call it the digestive fire. In modern medicine, we call it the digestive juices. In Ayurveda or in yoga philosophy, we call it the Jatar Agni. So that Agni, if it is low or if it is weak, you will experience that. And the Agni will not get strengthened unless you do this on a regular basis.
Thank you. Got it.
Sure.
Ram Shankari has a question. Is being content in doing service a kind of ego or not?
I mean, being contented, being satisfied is something. So the minute you talk about being satisfied, that means there's another thing that says, okay, I did not do this way, so I was unsatisfied, which means I did this way, then satisfied. So you see that the minute you talk about satisfaction, there is a corollary to that, which is unsatisfied also. So you should not feel it, just feel neutral. That's all. Don't worry about unsatisfaction or satisfaction. Just be neutral to the whole thing. Just do your act and leave it at that stage. And when I talk about benefits, again, I'm not saying that you should do that because you're going to get the health benefits. All I'm saying is that the health benefits will follow you, will follow your service act. So whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, whether you're expecting or not, it will come. It will just happen.
This is Shankar here. Thanks, Ram. Actually, the meaning of me asking that is because there are different kinds of people in the world, obviously. Some people post it in Facebook just for the sake of advertisement that they have done some service to show it off. Some people do it because that will drive other people to do the good things, right? Like maybe like a motivation or inspiration.
Correct.
So either way, when we are trying to post it over there and then we say that we have done this with good intention, probably. So
Right.
do you think that it is also kind of egoistic thing, or it is okay to do that?
No, I mean, when I tell my patients to engage in selfless service, okay, there's no expectation or there's no satisfaction. I'm just advising them. So maybe, forget about the people who publicize it. It's okay. I mean, they're doing it. They're publicizing it. It's okay. Let's not create any kind of judgment. That's their way of practice. That's fine. No problem. But if you're doing it and if you want to post it on the Facebook, just say, the way I do it is I just say, engage today in a Monday's act of selfless service, Tuesday act of selfless service, Wednesday act of selfless service. Just post it, just put it up there. Okay. So there is no meaning of I did it, so you do it, or you do it, I'm advising you. Because, some people don't like advices. Some people don't like to take the advice from you. So why have all those judgments? The best thing is just put a slogan, Monday's act of self-service, or engage in today, or selfless service is the best way of leading a good life. Something like that. There are so many subtle ways of promoting selfless service without attaching any kind of tendencies to it. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Any other question?
Ram sir, this is Sri Ram here.
Yes.
And I have a question on monodiet. See, if you regularly practice monodiet, can it reverse the lifestyle diseases?
So I'm telling you based on my own experience with my patients. So a lot of chronic conditions. Okay, now remember, if you have a condition that has been there for several years, then it will take a long time to reverse that. Okay, it won't come with 1 or 2 acts of Khichdi program. It has to be at least a 1 year on a regular basis. So every month or once in 2 months, following that for 2 to 3 years. Definitely, Sriram. I've seen that in not just with our health, but I've seen it with the health of everybody else. It's been time tested. People who have practiced it for a very long time have seen the health benefits that come with Khichdi mono diet if you do it regularly. There are a lot of benefits that come with it. And you can reverse some of the chronic conditions as well. Because remember one thing, the minute you talk about chronic condition, what does it mean? It means that your immunity is down. Okay, it means your digestion is not optimal. And what does the Khichdi fast do? It brings back your immunity. It brings back your digestive system back to normalcy or optimal digestive system. It takes some time for the Khichdi diet to bring that to that level. But once it comes back to that level, now because your immune strength is so good and because your digestive system is so good, naturally you won't fall prey to any kind of diseases. So whatever diseases are there, those goes reversed, those get overcome. Not only that, you won't fall prey to any future diseases as well.
So, any other questions? Okay. So, looks like this was another successful session, Ram. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
And I don't want to sound facetious, but if you are thinking about doing a selfless act and writing a check, you can write it over to North Bay Hindu Center. So we can continue to bring these good programs for you. And if there are any suggestions, please, that you would like some sort of topic or anything to be covered, whether it is with Ram or any other, avenue that we have. Please let us know. You can write us an email at contact@northbaytemple.org. And we can, explore that and see what else we can cover. And the main idea of our this thing is not just to build the temple, it is to help the community. And so we want to be able to give back to the community and make these things available to everyone. And if you have missed this session, if any of your friends have missed this session, we upload this to our temple YouTube channel, or you can go to our website and you can get the information or access the recorded sessions. And as always, send us your questions, and Ram will cover it in the next session. So without much further ado, thank you very much. And Ram, I will see you and all of us. And please feel free to spread the word. All of us, including some others who will also join in the first Sunday of March.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As we said, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So spread the word. Everybody should be happy. Nobody should suffer.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Radhika.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you.
Thank you. I stopped that.